right here with seed oils. We're hearing a lot about seed oils. Why should people be worried about these kind of products?
Seed oils are one of the most unhealthy ingredients that we have in foods. And
no, they're not.
Seed oils, the reason they're in the foods is because they're heavily subsidized.
They're in food because they're cheap, they're a fat source, they're pretty shelf stable.
Very, very cheap, but they are associated with all kinds of very, very serious illnesses.
They're not associated with any illness. In fact, they have a negative association. People who eat more seed oils have lower rates of heart disease,
including body-wide inflammation.
Right.
There is no pathway in which seed oils trigger inflammation. Literally none. They are not pro-inflammatory.
Which affects all of our health. It's one of the worst things you can eat, and it's almost impossible to avoid. If you eat any processed food, you're going to be eating seed oil.
Right, and it's interesting, the government subsidizes it. Why would the government want to subsidize something that's going to make people sick, and then in the end, we all end up paying?
They're subsidizing it because it's not making people sick. It's doing quite the opposite, in fact.
For that, in terms of healthcare costs, which are skyrocketing.
Yeah, because that is a direct result of corruption. About 75% of FDA's budget comes from regulated industry, and that means food processors and pharmaceutical industry. All of them profit from a sick population.
You know, a big item that...
Yeah, right. Okay, so if they profit from a sick population, please explain to me why there's all these regulations on cigarettes and tobacco. If they make money off of a sick population, why have cigarettes, effectively been regulated to a point where they're almost banned? Why did they ban hydrogenated oils or trans fats? Why were trans fats banned if they benefit off a sick population and they're corrupt? Why did they ban fucking leaded gasoline? Don't they want everybody sick? Aren't they corrupt? This is just fucking retarded.
And by the way, it's getting very expensive. Our cereals. Why is the food coloring in particular bad?
Food coloring is perfectly safe.
Food coloring, you see your yellow food coloring, that is a petroleum product.
Mm-hmm.
Claiming something is a petroleum product is literally fucking retarded, and he knows nothing about chemistry. What's the best example I could use? It's like saying you shouldn't drink water because water is created from fusion reactions, no, it has the lowest atomic weight, right? Fuck. Well, yeah, you could just say, oh, well, it's not good to eat any food because it contains metals like zinc, which is created from fusion reactions from stars, and it's like this crazy chemical process that requires thousands of degrees of heat. It's just retarded. This guy just doesn't understand basic chemistry. You can chemically change something into something else, and then the thing that you change it into is perfectly safe. Dude.
It's associated with really, with
I have brain worms and they're not letting me make words out of my mouth hole.
With depression, it's associated.
Seed oils are not related to depression.
With autoimmune injury.
Seed oils are not correlated with autoimmune disease.
and ADHD.
Yeah.
Seed oils are not correlated with ADHD.
These and red dye also is
Oh, none of these dyes are related to that either.
is very bad. In Europe, the same companies are producing the same products, but they're using natural coloring. But here they can.
There's oftentimes no difference between artificial and natural colorings. It's just how you make it. Like if you're crushing bugs to make a dye versus using some sort of petrochemical altering it to make that same dye, the thing that makes it red is literally the same molecule. So it doesn't make a difference.
Can get away with it. We have about almost 1,000 chemicals that are in our food that are either outright banned in Europe or actively discouraged. So you wouldn't be able to buy this kind of stuff in Europe. You ask about why it's so cheap, why it's so ubiquitous. It's because we subsidize the worst foods. We subsidize it with about 70% of our food stamp program is to process foods, which are all poison.
Right. One of the things that's interesting is you'll see on
He's acting like seed oils don't exist in Europe. I literally lived in Europe. There's every processed food has seed oils. Like, what the fuck is he talking about?
on labels, natural flavors, which is this catch-all phrase that I guess was lobbied for, but the ingredients in natural flavors are not really natural.
No, in our country.
Natural doesn't mean anything. What do you mean by natural? It's just stupid.
Natural flavors are chemical products. So you can't trust what's on the ingredient label, and the reason for that, again, is government corruption. It's that the agency, the USDA, the FDA, have been captured by the industries they're supposed to regulate. And they all have an interest in subsidies and then in mass poisoning the American public.
Yeah, I want to talk about
That's
pesticides,
a cool
and then let's
story.
talk about the policy. So let's talk about the pesticides and the things that worry you about. I mean, this looks like fresh food, right? What should I be worried about here?
Yeah, I mean, the irony is, like, for example, my wife loves kale.
Like, especially with this political environment.
And she had the impression that kale is actually good for you. If it's organic, it's very good for you. But most kale and
Organic produce is not better for you than non-organic produce.
strawberries, for example, grapes, are contaminated with pesticides, and particularly the
There's pesticides used in organic agriculture.
Environmental Working Group has found what they call the dirty dozen, some of the worst pesticides on these products. So, I look at a strawberry and I think,
Pesticides are safe to consume at the levels that we're consuming them at. Like, you're talking about extraordinarily minute microscopic quantities.
oh, this is a healthy food,
Right.
but in most cases, unless it's organic, certified organic, you are getting something that's actually hurting you.
Like, this is so retarded. Show me one fucking study where people who exclusively eat organic produce have better health outcomes.
What can be done at a government level to stop this and make people get healthy?
Yeah, as president, I'll issue an executive order on day one that anybody who is recommending food products in USDA or FDA at any of those committees, if you are going to be on those committees, you have to have no conflict of interest. We spend 5 times our military budget on chronic disease.
Yeah.
And it's made us the 6th population.
Like, he says this, but then he's talking about organic produce and pesticide. Like, why do you think American healthcare expenditure is so high? Number one reason is because we have a single payer system, or America does. And second reason is because people are eating processed fucking garbage. They're eating like tons of meat, dairy, eggs, McDonald's, KFC. Like, it's not because they're eating fucking grapes with pesticide, you fucking idiot.
Hates the
population in the world. And if you wonder why we're the sickest people in the world, why do we have these epidemics of ADHD and depression and all these kind of psychiatric illnesses that have been linked by the science to.
As far as depression is concerned, the exposure that has the highest correlation with depression is poverty. So if you're broke, you are far more likely to be depressed compared to somebody who is not broke or rich. Like, the richer you are, the less likely you are to suffer from depression. So with especially among the younger generation, where, again, it's way harder for them to find a job, they can't find a house, they're like just starting to get into the job market and find careers, and rent rates are super high. Like, that's the demographic that you see with the highest rates of depression. So in all likelihood, the increased rates of depression you're seeing among young people, it's probably because they don't have as much money as their fucking parents did. And as far as ADHD and shit, that seems to be mostly genetic. I think there's like, I can't remember the statistics, but you're talking about like a few percentage points difference when it comes to environmental, differences, but it's almost entirely genetic. Bend over.
These kind of foods, the ingredients in these foods, and why do we have these neurological disorders, all this epidemic of autoimmune disease.
So many of these products are geared towards children, which I think is what's really tragic about it. It's sort of like you're putting them...
That's just fucking retarded. We're just living in crazy retard land. It doesn't even matter. Like, we're all just gonna die. Just enjoy your fried chicken, play some video games, live your life. That's all we can do.